Bringing us home today is Suvo Strategic Minerals. Suvo has an ASX code SUV. It has a market cap of around 50 million. Suvo Strategic Minerals is focused on expanding sales of hydrous kaolin at its 100% owned Pittong hydrous kaolin operation located 40 kilometres west of Ballarat in Victoria. Presenting today is Chairman Aaron Banks. Aaron, thank you for your time today, and please take it away.
Thank you, Matty. Lovely for you to invite me. First slide, please. The investment highlights. So we're a company that mines, manufactures and sells a commodity that's used in everyday life, at home, in your car, at the office. It's known as kaolin. We sell this commodity into a very high-end valued markets, think automotive paints, pharmaceuticals, rubbers, etc. We have a very long, multi-decade resource, 18 million tonnes of inferred resource. These sales move into blue chip clients, which we'll go through in a second, and look at. The company is profitable at project level. $1 million increase from FY24 through FY23, and another $1 million just added in the first month of FY25. So we're trending in the right direction. So that's underpinning the business. And then we move to the growth driver, which is the geopolymer concrete business. It's the opportunity to decarbonise the largest industrial polluter on the planet, which could only be described as a global mega trend. The concrete industry is worth around $1 trillion forecasted to be. So the geopolymer will play a reduction of somewhere between 50 and 80%, depending on the end use application. So how do we deliver that to market? We've managed to successfully set a relationship with one of the leading suppliers of concrete in the land, Permacast. They have built projects like the Optus Stadium, Gorgon project, Apache. So they will help us deliver, have helped us, in fact, deliver our first product to market, which were backing blocks for a government demonstration project. So the highlights completed. Next slide, please. So when I said it's kaolin, so what's kaolin? Kaolin is used in everyday products, as mentioned, rubber, plastics, ceramics, pharmaceuticals, high-end paints, automotive paints. So it's something that's been it's a very mature market. It's been around a long time. It's forecasted to grow to about $6 billion in the coming years. We've just returned the plant back to nameplate capacity, so all our capital expenditure works are done. We're now tuning and optimizing our OPEX. So the driving now in the next sort of few years for the kaolin, the opportunity is a very good one to grow that. And as I said, it's profitable at project level. I think we're around break even at corporate. So we're moving that, as I said, in the trend in the right direction. Some of their high-end uses are pharmaceutical grades, particularly suited to the high-end user markets, because we're the only hydrous kaolin producer onshore. We capture around 90% of the Australian market. So all our growth will come in the Asia Pacific region. We've just finished an extensive campaign out there to really target down into the industrial markets, which you can see there on the bottom left, representing about 15% of the market. But to put that into perspective, what does that mean? Well, it's probably around 2 to 3 million tonnes which is an addressable market. And then we say, okay, probably 200, 300,000 tonne would be particularly suited to our ore body. So we need about 1% to fill capacity. So not that big a ask. Next slide. So these are our Pittong kaolin operations. This is where the plant is set. These are the blue chip clients that I referred to: Dulux, Busy, North Boyer, Yates, Sellies, Bostik, Nippon Paints, Wattle. We've been selling to these companies for a very long time, continuous operation. It's a very mature business since 1972. We returned the plant back to nameplate capacity, as I said, on time and on budget through those COVID years, which were resource constrained. I think it was a very good effort by the team. And now we look to fill out that latent ton capacity. We could see there that some of the premium markets that we sell into, such as pharmaceuticals, attract a very high margin, around $2,000 per tonne. And now, as I said, that we've finished the capital-intensive projects, they're wrapped up, OPEX optimised. We're now in a position to really grow the business. Last year, we saw, 12.3 million in revenue. As said, just the first month of this year, of FY25, we've already hit the million. We achieved roughly around a $600 a tonne, price for, per tonne for our product. And the throughput's around 9 tonne an hour, which gives us our circa 60,000 tonne per annum. So we've got 2/3 of the plant to fill in the coming years. Next slide, please. So here is a project that's not in operation, but we see as entry into the markets in Victoria for our geopolymer concrete. We have a very interesting resource over there, which is fully permitted. It contains a very rare mineral, which is known as halloysite, in amongst the kaolin. So in some cases, that halloysite grade is up to 45%, which is unusually high. We are going to do some high-level testing to suggest that we can provide produce a geopolymer concrete that the benefits of the halloysite give structural, give some very important mechanical strengths and other properties favourable to our geopolymer. But the idea would be to try to produce a very low-cost precursor for the geopolymer market for our geopolymer products. We will try to throw it through an air classifier, desand it, and look to be able to hopefully produce a precursor that would be cheaper than Portland cement as the binder for the alternative for the traditional concrete market. If successful, this will pave the way into the Victorian market. So we've set up here in Western Australia because that's where we're based and Permacast are based, but our expansion programs and Permacast's aspirations to move over east will be facilitated largely, potentially through Trawalla and this resource, and being able to make a regular, consistent feedstock for the geopolymer precast industry in Victoria. Next slide, please. So the market opportunity for the geopolymer concrete. Well, concrete is cement, the binder, the grey powder that you use to make the concrete, is the second most consumed product on Earth, only behind water. It's the single largest industrial polluter as well, accounting for about 8% plus or minus, which is the equivalent of the entire global car fleet. This is producing around 4 billion odd tonnes of cement annually, forecasted to grow exponentially again because of construction is not going away. So it's here. It's now in the crosshairs of the decarbonisation move, much like the internal combustion engine car and fossil fuels have been, and the birth of the EV has led to that. But the construction industry now is next. Just the geopolymer market on its own is forecasted to grow to $40 billion in the coming sort of 5 to 10 years. But if you look at the sort of macro, more macro opportunity, the concrete market, as I said, is a $1 trillion industry. So the growth potential is enormous. Next slide. So the benefits of the geopolymer, we use waste-derived materials, industrial byproducts to produce our geopolymers. There's a number of them, probably half a dozen or so now that we're targeting and looking at tying up supply agreements on. These industrial byproducts, when combined with our alkali activators, we produce a concrete. In certain applications, it's superior to traditional concretes. and the efficiency in productions, life cycles, etc. The reduction in the CO2 emissions are significant. It's not just like everyone else's green concrete, where they slightly lower the OPC, the Portland cement, and increase the SCM, and so we're making a green product. This is a product that is totally void of Portland cement, zero, literally. As such, that's where we get our, the significant reductions of up to 80% in some cases, and depending on the other inputs applied. So what we look to do next, after the supply chains have been tied up, we are then potentially an opportunity where those reductions in emissions and the difference between the Portland cement, the traditional concrete products, you can start to look to be able to create carbon credits, and that which can be tokenized and then sold on various exchanges. And then we see, on the right hand side, the various market drivers. Everyone's literally come out, known that this is to be an issue, and all governments around the world are now looking at how do we make, look for a decarbonisation strategy, much like we've done with the EV market, as I said. How do we replicate that here in the construction industry? And geopolymer, in my opinion, will form a large part of that reduction. Next slide, please. So our strategy and market adoption, how do we get there? Well, as we said, we recently did a JV with Permacast, which is one of Australia's leading precast product, concrete product providers. They are extremely well versed in concrete products. So they do most of the work for, or a large portion of the work for, Laing O'Rourke, for the government. They'd have partners like Rio Tinto, BHP, Chevron, Woodside. They've built places like football stadiums, or large oil and gas facilities. So there's an enormous amount of concrete that goes into these precast products and into industry. So you don't have to think about geopolymer as replacing buildings, in the middle of the cities. If you sit and think about all the commodities that are available, culverts, retaining wall blocks, noise panel walls, stormwater pipes, you could keep going. There are, just in one of the next infrastructure jobs for Western Australian government, the Tonkin Highway extension in Byford. Just for one commodity, culverts, there's around 5,000 cubic metres, $80 million, just in one commodity there. So in these backing blocks that we've just made with Permacast, we delivered them, government picked them up. We delivered them about 2 days ago, I think it was now. So they would be going into place very soon. So that's a demonstration project at the behest of the South Sustainability Waste Alliance to try to help usher in these alternative methods to help meet government's reduction targets and CO2 emission targets. There we see the key milestones, and they will unfold over the next, probably 90 to 180 days. We will look to move through those milestones, and we'll keep the market up to date. It's very dynamic. It's moving pretty quickly. Supply chain opportunities for these industrial byproducts grow on a daily basis, as do the inquiries that come in for these products. So it's pretty exciting. Next slide, please. So this is what I just referred to before as the joint development agreement. So Permacast, you can have a look, and there's a very compelling video that's on their website that goes into reasonable detail as to exactly who and what Permacast have achieved over the last 20 or 30 years. They're a large privately owned company employing over 400 people. They're the projects, as we mentioned before. So they're very well positioned. Probably we couldn't have a better partner to help deliver this product to market. On the right-hand side picture there, you see the backing blocks. So they're retaining wall blocks. So think of a sloping site that comes down land. The sites are benched, and then those blocks are placed in and then backfilled against. So the appetite for those here in well, around the world, you can't perform subdivisions without backing blocks. It is enormous. So the joint development agreement basically outlines what we're doing. So we're creating mixed designs at 10 MPa, 20, 30, 40 MPa, and then maximum attainable strength. And then through those different strength categories, we then backfill and come up with commoditized products, as mentioned before. Various products will sit inside and fit inside those various strength concrete. And as we produce each product, then we will then usher those into a scheme created called the Product Stewardship Scheme that runs through the West Australian Government's laboratories known as Chem Centre. They test for environment, health, suitability for infrastructure. And then once it's run through its paces, it comes out the other end certified with the box tick fit for purpose. And then hopefully it gets ushered into the government's tender lists. And that's sort of the avenue into government work. But then you've also got industry, private enterprise, who are also mandated, have their own various reduction targets they want to hit as far as emission profiles are concerned. So we've had a number of large construction companies, civil construction companies, some of the biggest in the world, that have been down to Permacast, had a look at these blocks in particular, asked us which are the next sort of products that we look to produce. So that's an ongoing piece, but in the next sort of 3 to 6 months, probably, there will be a very healthy news flow pipeline as to these commodities that are rolling off the shelf, and hopefully we will have some offtake and supply agreements to report. So it's a very interesting and exciting time. Next slide. So these appendices, I won't run through them, but you go through the next slide. We have made this available, I think, on the ASX this morning. It's posted, so you can refer to it, at your leisure. And the last slide is a bit about the board, I guess, as part of the appendices. So that's us. We're a small, lean team, but I think in the last sort of 6 or 12 months, we've produced some, a very compelling marketing piece that we now can fine tune and look at the high value end user markets that we're hitting. As I said, in the first month of FY25, we've already increased sales by $1 million revenue. So we are on track to take that into profitability and simultaneously drive the growth side with the geopolymer side of the business.
Okay, Aaron, thank you for that. It's kaolin. It's not a well-known sort of part of the market, but it's a very interesting business, and I'm particularly on the environmental ESG positives that come from it. So it's pretty topical. I've got a couple of questions for you. Can
Sure.
I start with, now you touched on other potential end users. I gather that you've got some product testing and trials underway with other potential users. What does that pipeline look like? Is it quite full? Have you got some pretty looming agreements and new customers coming?
Yeah, sure. Well, as we said, in the last the $1 million that came just in the first month of FY25, that was as a result of Boyan's work up in Asia to track down and fill out that sales pipeline that's specific to the industrial market. So that's a high end market. So you have the paper, you have the ceramics, which are largely, high, very, very high volume, but low margin. And then you have the industrial market. So the industrial market is, as we said, like the high-end automotive paints, rubber, pharmaceuticals, cosmetics. So that addressable market is probably that which is suited to our ore body is somewhere around 200,000 or 300,000 tonnes, of which we only need to capture 1%. So we're fairly confident that we can capture 1% of that market, and that then takes us to basically selling out the plant and having a very healthy revenue and bottom line as a result. But the short answer is, Danny, the pipeline is full. It's growing on a daily basis. We have to move through that testing procedure. So it is a process. Generally takes around, and on a good day, 3 months, but normally around 6 to 9. By the time the customer's ordered, you dispatch the sample, it's run through the labs, and they need a bulk sample running through, to get containers up to Asia. So that is a process. It's an ongoing process, but it's one now that we've started, as you said, about sort of 6 months ago. That testing cycle has started. We're now starting to see the fruits of that, come to fruition. Okay. So it's moving forward in the right direction. Yeah.
Okay, excellent. Can I very quickly ask you? You touched on the Qingdao, the recent Qingdao order. So can we take from that? Will that open some additional doors for you in China?
Yeah, so there's a number of pieces or streams of work that we're doing up in China. One of them is we're looking at getting the pharmaceutical grade kaolin that we produce. So we're one of probably a handful on the planet that can produce that pharmaceutical grade. So that needs to be much like their version of the FDA or our TGA, a Therapeutic Goods Association. So once that's approved, that will open the doors to a very high value product, north of $2,000 a tonne. The agreement now that you've just sort of mentioned. So those doors in China are opening. It took us a little while, but we will end up placing, I believe, a lot of the latent tonne capacity up there through them. Yeah. Okay, Aaron, thank you very much for that fascinating business, and we wish you all the best with it. And hopefully we can get you back soon to get another update. Thanks, Manny. Appreciate it.
Okay, no problem. Well, again, Aaron, have a great weekend, and we'll talk to you soon. Okay, that is all we have for today.